the morning class. We are in Canto 1, reading from Chapter 5, Text 10. Before we get started from reading from Text 10, we'll just say a small prayer. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya
Naram Cheva Narottamam
Devim Saraswatim
Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye
Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nishtiki. So we are reading from Canto 1, Chapter 5, which is Narad's instructions on Shrimadbhagavatam, and Text 10. Nayadvashchash chitrapadam harire yasho Jagat pavitram pragrinita karhichit Tadvayasam tirtam ushanti manasa Nayadrahamsa niramanti ushikshaya Nayavachash chitra padam haryasho Jagat pavitram pragnita karhichit Tadvayasam tirtam ushanti manasya Nayatra hamsa niramanti ushikshaya Nayadvashchash chitram padam haryasho Jagat pavitram pragnita karhichit Tadvayasam titram ushanti manasa Nayatrahamsa nirmanati ushikshaya Would you like to try?
Nayatsasitrapadam haryasho
Nayadvashchash chitram padam haryasho
Jagat pavitram pragnita karhichit
Jagat pavitram pragnanita karhichit
Tatyayasam tirthamusanti manasa
Tadvyasam tirtam ushanti manasa
Nayatrahamsa niramanti shikshaya
Nayantrahamsa niramanti ushikshaya. Reading word for word. Not. Yat. That. Vacha. Vocabulary. Chitrapadam. Decorative. Hare. Of the Lord. Yasha. Glories. Jagat. Universe. Pavitram. Sanctified. Pragnita. Described. Karhichit. Hardly. That. Vayasam. Crows. Tirtam. Place of pilgrimage. Ushanti. Think. Manasa,
Manasaha,
saintly persons.
saintly persons.
Na,
Na,
not. Yatra,
yatra,
where.
where.
Hamsa,
Hamsaha,
all perfect beings.
all perfect beings.
Excuse me. Hold on. Nirmantani,
Niramanti,
taking pleasure.
taking pleasure.
Ushikshaya,
Usikshaya,
those who reside in the transcendental abode.
those who reside in transcendental abode.
I feel like one more is coming on. It's not really so. Excuse me. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada.
Jai.
Translation. Those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be like unto a place of pilgrimage for crows. Since the all-perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there. Please repeat. Those words which do not describe
the
glories of the Lord,
glories of the Lord,
who alone can sanctify the atmosphere
can sanctify the atmosphere
of the whole universe,
of the whole universe,
are considered by saintly persons to be like unto a place of pilgrimage for crows. Since the all perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Crows and swans are not birds of the same feather because of their different mental attitudes. The fruit of workers or passionate men are compared to the crows, where the all-perfect saintly persons are compared to the swans. The crows take pleasure in a place where garbage is thrown out, just as the passionate fruit of worker takes pleasure in wine and women and places for gross sense pleasure. The swans do not take pleasure in the places where crows are assembled for conferences and meetings. They are instead seen in the atmosphere of natural scenic beauty, where there are transparent reservoirs of water nicely decorated with stems of lotus flowers and variegated colors of natural beauty. That is the difference between the two classes of birds. Nature has influenced different species of life with different mentalities, and it is not possible to bring them up into the same rank and file. Similarly, there are different kinds of literature for different types of men of different mentality. Mostly the market literature, which attracts men of the crows categories, are literatures containing refused remnants of sensuous topics. They are generally known as mundane talks in relation with the gross body and subtle mind. They are full of subject matters described in decorative language, full of mundane similes and metaphorical arrangements. Yet, with all that, they do not glorify the Lord. Such poetry and prose of any subject matter is considered decoration of a dead body. Spiritually advanced men who are compared to the swans do not take pleasure in such dead literatures, which are sources of pleasure for men who are spiritually dead. These literatures, in the mode of passion and ignorance, are distributed under different labels, but they can hardly help the spiritual urge of the human being. And thus, the swan-like spiritual advanced men have nothing to do with them. Such spiritually advanced men are called also manasa, because they always keep up the standard of transcendental voluntary service to the Lord on the spiritual plane. This completely forbids fruitive activities or gross bodily sense satisfaction or subtle speculation of the material, egoistic mind. Socially literary men, scientists, mundane poets, theoretical philosophers and politicians who are completely absorbed in the material advancement of sense pleasure are all dolls of the material energy. They take pleasure in a place where where rejected subject matters are thrown. According to Swami Sridhara, this is the pleasure of the prostitute hunters. But literatures which describe the glories of the Lord are enjoyed by the Paramahamsas who have grasped the essence of human activities. Jai. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanustute Devi Parnamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhudevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So this is a long purport after many short purports. But it is actually a very important verse in Shrimadbhagavatam, actually. So we're at the kind of the turning point of, so we've heard Vyasadeva being very dissatisfied, and he turned to his spiritual master, Narad Muni, like, what do I do? Narad Muni says, you know, you've written all the Vedas, everything is to be known, you have done, you have all knowledge, but you are not satisfied because you have not glorified the Lord. So here, these are the instructions that we're hearing from Narada Muni to Vyasadeva of how to obtain that satisfaction, that happiness, that peace within one's heart. And it comes when we put Krishna in the center, when we glorify Krishna, right? So, this particular verse, so this particular verse talks about swans and crows, birds of a different, they're not the birds of the same feather, they're different mental attitudes. So let's dig deeper in why Prabhupada, or why Bhagavatam has talked about swans and crows. So I thought today we'll just go over a little bit about, what this purport is stating, and then Srila Prabhupada in a letter has kind of described some things, so we'll go over one of the letters, or room conversations that Srila Prabhupada had, and then there's a story that we can understand a little bit more. So hoping to bring all of these together to kind of see why Srila Prabhupada is stressing these crows and swans, and what to do about it. So many things come underneath the category of swans and crows, right? Swans and crows are kind of represented over, they're further describe these modes of material nature, So remember the three modes of material nature? Quiz.
Passion, ignorance, and goodness.
Cool. All right, perfect. So swans are those that are in the mode of goodness, and crows are ones that are in passion and ignorance, kind of personified. So in this day and age, in Kali Yuga, we are surrounded by information and books. Newspapers still exist, magazines, so they're still there. But, you know, social media and YouTube and so many of these things give us so much knowledge of this material world, right? Back in the days with so many printed newspapers, it was just so much waste of paper that was being produced. And why would we call this a waste of paper? You know, in the mail, we receive, I don't know about you, but I receive so much junk mail. I'm just like, you don't even look at it and you end up throwing it out. So much wastage, right? So when we look at all this literature, what is it trying, what knowledge is it giving us, truly? If we think about it, it's actually quite depressing.
Yeah.
Turn on the news, one thing after another, right? Like rarely, I think it's ABC News or something like that, once a week on a Saturday at the end of the program, they announce like one good news of the week. The rest of it, negative, right? So you go and you scroll and YouTube and this and that. I mean, it's all kinds of this person's opinion, two different opinions on the same topic. Who's correct? Who's true? Where's the truth, right? They're all like screaming, you know, truth in media, this and that. Like, where are you going to find it, right? And stuff. So this is all essentially useless literature because it revolves around the mode of passion and ignorance. It basically is either talking about something for sense gratification, something related to the material body, all these topics, right? But nothing spiritual. If ABC News all of a sudden reported on Shrimadbhagavatam and a shloka on that, it would be like, wait, what? Right? So we don't see these things in modern times. In fact, not only do we have all this type of knowledge, but we also, like, honestly, before becoming a devotee or coming into Krishna consciousness, on the weekends, you go and watch a movie, right? Movie after movie after movie, whether it's in the theater, whether at home, Netflix now, like, it's just, you know, so many of these things are out there, and if you go out to a movie, you're actually paying money to go see this movie. Now, you see this movie, and it's temporary, short-term entertainment. Does it do anything to uplift your spirits? Rarely, right? So when you come out of this movie, you know, first of all, you paid for wasting your time, which we're only here for a limited amount of time, right? And what is the best use of your time? You have to determine that, right? So you go doing that, but you also come out sometimes feeling worse, or sometimes not feeling uplifted, or sometimes even feeling disturbed, right? So, but the point of this Vedic civilization, everything we're hearing about, these stories, these people, these are not made up stories. These are not, you know, personalities that did not exist. They are all very much inexistent, or they had existed in the past, and so forth. So this Vedic civilization is there because it is in every story, in every shloka, and everything that we learn about that comes in the Vedas. It is there to uplift the human spirit to some degree, right? Because we do have karmakanda, we have all kinds of things in the Vedas and stuff. But eventually, one after another, it's there to uplift the human spirit, to encourage service to the Lord, right? Devotional service to the Lord, and to the Lord's devotees, serving the Lord's devotees. So this is the difference, right? We have all access to all kinds of knowledge. And the knowledge which comes from the Vedas is very much different because it is in transcendental goodness, right? It is even beyond the mode of goodness. It is transcendental. And because it's spiritual, it uplifts the spirituality of an individual as well too, right? Spirit and spirit. Matter and spirit don't mix. It's oil and water. But when you attach to the Supreme Spirit, right? When you get spiritual knowledge, when you attach yourself, because you are a spirit soul, when spirit comes closer to a Supreme Spirit, how much that can enliven you, right? So that is flocking together with the same feather. So Srila Prabhupada had a conversation with this Mr. and Mrs. Williams. This is a conversation that took place in July 23rd in 1973 in London. And it shows how Srila Prabhupada, who, talk about Paramahamsa, right? Ravi Rajikara Paramahamsa, we say when we pay our obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, how he's always thinking of uplifting this world, right? Every single living entity in this world. It's not even just humans, how much he's affected everything in this world. So in this conversation, I'm going to actually read the conversation, so bear with me, but please try to follow along because these are important things that happen. So Mrs. Williams, she says, but there are still many millions of people who have no homes, no food. They're visited by sickness and hunger, and they have no hope. They feel that they feel they have no hope to live out their lives in any kind of human comfort. And how are these people to spiritually think of themselves out of their physical misery? So Prabhupada says, so let them come to us. We shall give them food, shelter, everything. Miss Williams, but people in the poor Indian people in South America, says Srila Prabhupada, call them, all those. You are referring some class of men. Let all of them come to us. We shall provide them. Miss Williams says, with their spiritual security, Prabhupada, yes, both material and spiritual. We shall supply them material food, clothing, shelter, everything, and give them spiritual enlightenment. Call them. Miss Williams said, so you must spread yourself across the world. Prabhupada, yes, we are spreading. Mr. Williams, you are doing it? Prabhupada, we are doing that. We are calling, come everyone, we have no such problem. Just take this house. George Harrison has given us such a big house. We are living comfortably. We're also eating. We're also sleeping. We have no concern. We have no problem. It is practical. You can see. You can stay with us and see that we have no such problem. Miss Williams, but it is for the minority, not for majority. Prabhupada said, well, let the majority come to us. Why do they not come? Mr. Williams, he says, it will take time, and laughs. Prabhupada, when we invite them, come here. No, they will not come. Miss Williams, but you haven't loaves and fishes. You cannot at this time. Prabhupada, what? We cannot supply fishes. That is not possible. Mrs. Williams, so you can teach them. You can help them to have spiritual comfort when their stomachs are empty. Well, stomach, I shall give food. It is not this. Mrs. Williams, you will give food. Mr. Williams, that is part of the Prabhupada. We will do that, or we do that. Mrs. Williams says basically that you do that, huh? Like they're like going back and forth a little bit. Prabhupada, we do that. Yes. We cultivate our own food. Yes. We've got a place. We have a place in New West Virginia. Miss Williams, in New Virginia? Yes, Prabhupada says. We produce our food. Actually, we have created this uncomfortable situation. Human beings, anywhere, any part of the world, if they have got land and an animal, a cow, all economic questions can be solved. Now here, there is much vacant land. They're not utilizing it for producing food. They are keeping cows for slaughter. This is their business. They're utilizing land for keeping some cows for being slaughtered. So if you go on committing sinful life, how can you be happy? Huh? Now, in the Christian Bible, it is clearly said, thou shalt not kill. Why are they killing? Why they are killing? Prabhupada, who is Christian? It is very difficult to find out a Christian. Some people have become godless, faithless. They must suffer. This is nature's way. Devi he gun esha gunamai mama maya duratita. This comes in Bhagavad Gita 7:14. Even you want to help them, he cannot be happy. Suppose a diseased man. He's suffering from dysentery. So if you think, oh, let me supply him food, so he cannot digest food. So one who is condemned to suffer, you cannot give him any relief. You cannot give him any relief. This is a futile attempt. We welcome any. So here we can see Srila Prabhupada's immense amount of compassion. He went all over the world, not even considering himself, just to uplift the human society, to uplift anyone, right? Just with a little land and cow. He's telling everybody to come. We will give you the food. We will give you the shelter. We will give you clothing, right? All you have to do is just follow these rules and regulations, right? And become Krishna consciousness. But we will give you everything. Is it so difficult? It is not so difficult. We make it difficult, but technically it's not difficult, right? So he was going on about, like in this letter, or conversation, it continues on, that he's welcoming everyone. They come and they stay for a few days. But if they cannot take to, back to their meat, their intoxication, they were missing all of that, right? Their sex life, they couldn't stay in the spiritual life. So, but their spiritual life had begun. Just by hearing the Maha Mantra, by even touching a book, we'll see that their spiritual life has begun. Actually, one time a woman was there and she came to Srila Prabhupada and she was complaining constantly about these restrictions. And Srila Prabhupada said, like, if you don't like it, if you don't want to do it, because these restrictions are there, right, against sense gratification, just to allow us to be able to understand and reach this swan-like mentality, right, is what these regulations are for. No meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling. These things are here because, number one, if you partake in those, it pollutes the mentality of the individual. It pollutes the physical body of the individual. It pollutes so many things. But if we restrain from them and follow the rules and regulations, and instead of taking to meat, you take prashada, right? Instead of doing all this gambling and illicit sex and all these intoxication, become intoxicated in kirtan, right? In the reading of these books, there's so many different ways we can become attached to Krishna, depending on your nature. So by taking this, we are in a purificatory, we purify ourselves, right? And as we purify, our crow-like mentality actually becomes like a swan-like mentality, right? In the mode of goodness, and then beyond that mode of goodness. So Prabhupada also explains that there are 4 stages of sannyas. Now, many people think of sannyas that you have to wear, like saffron cloth and travel the world. Sure, yes, that's sannyas. But also, sannyas is also just renouncing, right? Taking a moment to renounce. So even if you're a married life, you can also renounce. If you are, student life, there's ways of renouncing. So you can also come to the stage where you can renounce those things that are in the mode of passion and ignorance and take to the process of goodness, right? So there's 4 different stages. one stage, and this is again stages to increase, to progress in our spiritual development, and also detach from our worldly attachments. So we have to do both. We increase our spiritual attachments, and at the same time, we detach from our worldly attachments. Okay? So, Kuti Chakka is one stage. This is the initial stage where like a renunciant would live in a small cottage like outside of town or village, but they're still supported by family or the community and so forth. So sometimes they take, like you see someone renouncing and maybe going, not necessarily to a forest, but because they will come back and take food from home, or, you know, they're still supported by the home, but they're slowly renouncing. So, but then as he goes through this process, he may start to think, you know, why should I take food from home, and why not open myself to a broader family, right? Like, as we understand, like, we're all children of Krishna, right? We're all children of God. Let me go to the broader family. So then they go slowly into the stage of Bahudaka. In this stage, a sannyasi, or someone who's a renunciate, will travel from place to place, begging for food, right? So they'll start to beg, and sustenance for many. So they'll go about this way for a little while, but then they'll also start thinking like, okay, you know, begging from the food, but why am I doing this? So they start to get more involved in spiritual knowledge, trying to understand and get more involved in understanding this Vedic, or more and deeper into spiritual knowledge. And in this stage, they start traveling extensively because the spiritual knowledge they're receiving is so sweet that they want to start preaching and telling others about this, because this is more satisfying than probably even food itself, right? So they start to wander and to teach. So you become an acharya, or you become a pravirajaka, or someone who's wandering and traveling, as we call Srila Prabhupada. And then, you know, so they're giving the spiritual knowledge. In exchange, they get some food, but these are loving exchanges that are taking place now. And then they go into what they call a Paramahamsa stage, which is the highest stage. And this is the place where a sannyasi, or someone who's renounced in the renounced order, has very much achieved very deep spiritual maturity. And they're often, sometimes they're often settled in one place for contemplation and further spiritual advancement, but they're no longer attracted to material affection, or the idea of like, you know, these material interactions. So, but as we can see with Srila Prabhupada, not only was he Paramahamsa, he was a Pravirajaka, he was an Acharya, right? Srila Prabhupada, he did not stop, he continuously traveled, giving this highest God realization, right? He was not only at the highest stage, but he was our only hope for mankind, right? He was giving out this only hope for mankind, to uplift them from this crow-like mentality into making everyone into swans, right? In this mode of goodness. So bringing the civilization up. And this is, Srila Prabhupada's amazing, right? Who can do what he did? Like, I'm at a loss of words to think even like that. So like, so everything he taught us, everything he does was meant for our purification, right? And so that is the best gift. What more can anyone ask for, right? This is what Srila Prabhupada has given. And also in Krishna book, Shrimadbhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, all of these books, right? He gives us so many benedictions, right? When we study these scriptural texts, right? There's so many benedictions that come in them. In fact, from Krishna book is so wonderful because it's all stories. It's stories of Krishna, right? But even reading these stories of Krishna, there's so much benediction that one can receive from it. So in Krishna book, there's a statement that Srila Prabhupada makes. So I'd like to read that statement so we can understand this. The Krishna conscious movement is the unique gift of Lord Chaitanya to the fallen souls of this age. It is a very simple method which has actually been carried out during the last 4 years in the Western countries. So this is Srila Prabhupada speaking, very early in the movement. And there is no doubt that this movement can satisfy the dormant, loving propensities of humanity. This book, Krishna, is another presentation to help the Krishna conscious movement in the Western world. This transcendental literature is published with profuse illustrations. People love to read various kinds of fiction to spend their time and energy. Now this tendency can be directed to Krishna. Again, Vyasadeva, right? Dissatisfaction because he needed to be directly, talk about Krishna directly and glorify Krishna directly. So this Krishna book has that tendency because it's directly talking about Krishna. The results will be the imperishable satisfaction of the soul, both individually and collectively. So when we talk about soul of the nation, right, we hear politicians sometimes throwing that around, right? How do you improve the soul of the nation? By becoming more spiritual, right? The spiritual upliftment of the society. It is said in the Bhagavad Gita that even a little effort extended on the path of Krishna consciousness can save one from the greatest danger. Hundreds and thousands of examples can be cited of people who have escaped the greatest dangers of life due to a slight advancement in Krishna consciousness. We therefore request everyone to take advantage of the great transcendental literature. One will find that by reading one page after another, an immense treasure of knowledge in art, science, literature, philosophy, and religion will be revealed, and ultimately, by reading this one book, Krishna, love of Godhead will fructify. So look at this benediction, right? Srila Prabhupada is giving us. How to uplift not only myself, but society, and so, and to ultimately feel and live in this love of Godhead, right? What greater gift? It's the most unique gift. So by reading these books, by studying these books, we actually feel more and more encouraged, right? More hopeful, more satisfied, right? If you were not satisfied, happy, and you would not be here daily, right? So there was actually, even scientifically, there was this Mataji in the lecture, she was talking about a Sanskrit article that she read, or some article she read about Sanskrit. And it describes, so scientifically they did a study on Sanskrit. And basically Sanskrit enhances the memory and the thinking in the brain. So by memorizing ancient mantras, it increases the brain's, an area in the brain associated with cognitive functions. So they did a study, scientific study, where they took a control group and then a group that was studying Sanskrit, speaking Sanskrit, and so forth. And they found out, what they found out was pretty amazing. They found out that they measured the brain and how much matter was there in the brain. And they found that those who were learning Sanskrit, they actually had more brain matter, and their ability, the cognitive function of the brain was at a higher level than those that were in the control group that did not have Sanskrit study.
I was asking you.
So even scientifically, studies have been taking place on what Sanskrit, the study of Sanskrit, can do to one's brain.
Why does that not surprise me?
And it's amazing because I will tell you, I have been a Sunday school teacher for over 15 years, and watching these children grow, and from a young age, memorizing, these mantras, or that Bhagavad Gita competition, all of these things, these are some of the most intelligent children you will find, in the area.
Yeah.
And they all are extremely successful in doing amazing things in the world, right? So training a young child in these Vedic texts, that these books that Srila Prabhupada has given us, we can see we can do our own scientific experiment, right?
Yeah.
We see, the quality of these individuals that come out from these times. So it's just, I'm not surprised by this study, actually.
And all of these kids can say Sanskrit like it's their second language.
Yes. So they're very fortunate.
Mm-hmm.
So again, very interesting, and seeing that everything that Srila Prabhupada gave us in these books. You asked the other time, right? Why is the Sanskrit given? The word for word, the translation. Why does Srila Prabhupada spend so much effort in all of these books? It is because of this, right? It is to uplift the society. So,
Cool.
I'm going a little bit over today. And many of the sages along the disciplic successions, we can see, how much compassion they had, because they dedicated their entire lives to give us this, right? To give us this knowledge. I have one more story. Is it okay to go through?
Please.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry if I go over a little bit
thank
today.
you so much.
This verse is very beautiful, and so
Please.
I got a little ambitious. So there's a story of a king, Kim Shibi, and so what has happened in this particular story is this king, he was standing alone on his terrace, and he saw a dove come, like a small dove bird, come towards him with great speed, and it was actually an eagle was after him, after the dove. So to escape the clutches of this eagle, the dove made himself to hide. So seeing the king, the dove basically took shelter of the king's lap, right? And said, the dove was basically, "Oh, king, saved my life, please keep me under your shelter." Now, the eagle came and stuff, and a king, his duty is basically to protect everyone, that takes his shelter. And so then the eagle was like, "Well, this is my prey, this is my food, right? You have to give it back to me," and stuff. So now the king is like, well, he has to feed everyone, right? But at the same time, this dove took shelter. So what to do, right? So King Shibi was actually very much contemplating, because it's his responsibility to do both. So what to do? So therefore the king said, "Have no fear, my son. That eagle will not be able to touch even a feather. So relax." So he told the dove, "No worries." And in the same time, he tries to fulfill the eagle's demand. So the eagle landed in front of him, and, "Please appease my hunger now. What are you going to do?" So the righteous king also saw the point of the eagle's demand and understood the dilemma. And so he decided to, the eagle said, okay, he gave two conditions to the king. The eagle said, "O king, I shall let the dove go if you offer me an equal weight flesh from your body as food." Okay? So Shibi, the king, was quite pleased with the adjustment. He thought that, a pound or two of flesh from my body would not kill him, and, would save the life of the dove and also, make the eagle happy.
Right.
So he was happy to do that, and without even a second thought. But then the eagle put another condition up, because there was two. He said that the other condition, "O king, if a single tear drops from your eye, I shall be constrained to accept your flesh as my food." So basically, take the king, right? Take all of the king. So the king's like, "Okay, fine, no problem." And agreed, and called for a knife and a balance. And on one side of the balance, he put the dove. And on the other side, he took a large chunk of his flesh, and he put it from his right thigh, he put it onto the balance. I know this is kind of gruesome, but and it was strange because the pan with the dove always weighed more. So even with additional flesh being added to it. So almost the whole right half of the king was cut and put on to the weight, so that it would be equal. Now, at this juncture, right, a drop of tear actually appeared in the left eye of the king. And the eagle objected to this and saying, "O king, I cannot accept the food given in distress. The tear in your eye shows that you're unhappy. So give me the prey back and you shall regain your normal health." But with a faint smile on his lip, the king said, "Oh, behold, O eagle, the left eye is not crying out of grief. It is a tear of joy. Now my left half of the body will also be used to honor the word I have given to you." Kings those days, right?
Yeah.
Honor was everything.
Yeah.
So otherwise I have, if only the right side has satisfied you, then the left side of the body would be denied this great opportunity of sacrifice. So therefore, he cried out of joy. Now, this ultimate sacrifice of King Shibi was unparalleled in history. Who would do that, right? So the eagle and the dove actually disappeared, and in their place stood the king of righteousness, which was Dharmaraj, and the king of heaven, which was Indra. So this eagle and dove were actually Dharmaraj and King Indra.
Oh, fine.
Okay? So the gods, and as the demigods come in any kind of situation like this, they will shower flowers and so forth and praise the king, because this king, right, he never failed to do his duty accordingly, right? He gave the ultimate sacrifice. So King Shibi had passed this ultimate test to uphold Dharma, the true duty of every king, and it is said that this king ruled for many years after his death, went directly to the heavens to enjoy the fruits of his righteous karma. So basically, the story is important because it shows and we learn the value of sacrificing our body for the good of others. So if we think about this Krishna conscious movement, what is taught to us is that we may endure some austerity, some pain, but in the process, if it's for the good of others and to uplift the society, we actually don't find distress in that. There's actually some pleasure in that. If we have to go out and distribute books and take that austerity, it's not easy, right? But at the same time, there's such great joy and pleasure from taking that austerity just to uplift the good of people. If you go on Harinam Sankirtan and go chanting, it's not so easy to be out there in the days where they were chanting 8 hours on the street, right? And singing and, spreading this Krishna conscious movement. All the pioneers of this Krishna conscious movement, so much sacrifice they've done. Some have done with their lives too, right? Sacrificed their life for Krishna consciousness. But it wasn't about there was not like pain, like, oh, this sucks. It was all pleasure because it was the upliftment, the spiritual upliftment of society.
Yeah.
And how profound that is. So we hear similarly in this story. And we learn also not to refuse anyone for shelter and who needs help, right? This Krishna conscious movement, Srila Prabhupada said, anywhere in the 10-mile radius of a temple does not need to go hungry, right? We have prasadam for everybody, right? So if someone comes through the door of our temple, give them some prasad, right? Give them Krishna consciousness, let them, and their lives can change. It's changed. 1 minute they step into the temple, their life has changed, right? So this rescuing from the modes of material nature to uplift society, this is what will bring about in these Vedic texts. So these mundane literatures don't do anyone any good and stuff. These spiritual literatures have so much power to uplift society. And this Krishna conscious movement also has that ability. ABCD, association, these Vedic books, Chanting of the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. And diet. What is more glorious than Krishna Prasadam? You'll forget your eating. Eat Krishna Prasadam. It's so glorious. So by this way, we can uplift the entire society, we can change the world, and so forth. So, apologize for going over. But if there's any questions or comments,
I can say like about the Hamsa Mataji. I heard before we say more of goodness Hamsa, right? I heard the Hamsa, that swans, they can separate the milk and the water.
Yes.
Yeah, that is why they said it is Hamsa. And when they say the great Acharyas as Paramahamsa, there is beyond the mood of goodness.
Yeah.
That's what I remember.
Yeah, definitely. The swan can extract the nectar, the milk, from the water. They have the ability to do that. So they are not touched by any of these modes, right? They are like Paramahamsa, right? Like they are not in this, they're transcendental in their thinking, in the way that they give.
That's so cool.
It's
Also, I remember that that they were telling how the Hamsa, they can separate milk from the water, right?
Yeah.
That is how we are supposed to, find the good literature, good things from the scriptures for our spiritual benefit and not for the material well-being.
pull the nectar out.
Yes.
And Vyasadeva, so nicely, right? Even though he wrote all the Vedas, this is the nectar he's giving us in Shrimadbhagavatam. So we don't even have to search so much.
Yeah.
Just by studying Shrimadbhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, we have our full, that's all. Everything we need to know to love God, to participate in devotional service, and go back home, back to Godhead. Very easy. So, Jai.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Well, I've been vegetarian for a little over a year now.
Jai?
You
Amazing.
see how your mind was back then and how your mind is right now. You can see the whole difference.
Yeah. And I only missed one thing, and I'm not going to say what it is, but I've done really well. I haven't messed up since.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Congratulations, Prabhu.
Thank you. I appreciate
Amazing.
it. Haribol.
It'll keep happening.
I'm the cook, and so my family is 95% vegetarian right now.
And that is the upliftment, right?
Yep.
By your presence. Anytime we're in the presence of a devotee, right? And if we associate with devotees that are senior than us, right? It actually helps to uplift us as well too, right? So that is the key. That's a formula.
Being around you guys is just such a blessing.
No,
I just love you guys so much.
no, we're very fortunate to have Srila Prabhupada in our lives. Okay. So, thank you so much. Grantaraj Shrimadbhagavatam ki
Jai.
Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
What are you doing Saturday?